Abacus Data just released a new poll, and the results are pretty interesting. Now, as we all know, Abacus is one of the more trusted polling firms when it comes to predicting accurate elections, not like Ecos or Nanos, who tend to lean a little bit to the left, and that's to say that at the least. So we're going to get into this information. Now, before we do, please don't forget to like and subscribe. It really helps grow the channel, and I appreciate you guys so much for doing that. So let's get into the numbers a little bit here. We got the Conservatives at 42%, Liberals at 40%, so still very close, still within the margin of error. NDP at 8, Bloc 6, Green 3, PPC 1. Looks like Maxime Bernier going on the Patrick Bet-David show really did wonders for him, eh? Gee, I wonder what would happen if Pierre Poilievre went on that show. Would he have lost 80% of his support too? Oh well. Either way, Patrick Bet-David can have sour grapes all he wants over that, but either way, this is good news. It's not great news because it's still very close and within the margin of error. But if this were to happen, if these numbers are completely accurate, the Conservatives would have 165 seats to the Liberals 146 to the Bloc 23, NDP 7, Green at 2. Conservative minority, again, not great news, but it just shows you that Pierre Poilievre's support is holding firm. Now, Mark Carney's is holding pretty firm as well, but with the apology to Trump, and I believe this survey was taken before that was confirmed by Mark Carney, so again, that's interesting to see what happens in the next upcoming polls. But no deals done. Nothing has really been done at all after all these big promises and elbows up and all this garbage that we knew was a lie, but left-wingers didn't, and unfortunately swing voters didn't understand it either, but hopefully they'll start to understand that soon. Now, when we have a look here, oops, sorry about that. Let me just go back. This is very interesting. I'm going to actually just pull this up on 338 here so we can have a look at this. So breakdown by region. Atlantic Canada is only up by 5 points for the Liberals. That's not that big considering Atlantic Canada usually votes very Liberal. Now, provincially, we just had an election out east, and one of the problems, I believe it was Newfoundland, they actually just elected a Conservative premier. So that's very interesting. The Liberals still have a big lead in Quebec, but that's normal. Ontario, though, is tied. That's good news for the Conservatives. They need to hold water in Ontario, and they need to crack that red wall in Toronto. Prairies, of course, up big for the Conservatives. Alberta, up big for the Conservatives. And then in British Columbia, again, it's very tight, but the Conservatives have a very slight lead there, 41%, although it is in the margin of error still. So again, nothing to get overly excited about, but the fact that Mark Carney hasn't been prime minister for that long and Pierre Poilievre's support is still holding strong is pretty wild. I think a lot of people, especially a lot of the left-leaning pollsters, think that Mark Carney's support has risen and Pierre's has dropped, but that does not seem to be the case when you look at one of the more accurate pollsters based off of their polling history. Female voters, again, up slightly for the Liberals, but it's again within the margin of error. Male voters, 46% to 39%, so they're up by 7. That is pretty significant. It's very good news. And again, look at this. The young people starting to wake up. Young people decided to forgive the Liberal Party when Justin Trudeau resigned. They decided to believe Mark Carney, but the tide is starting to turn. 30 to 44-year-olds, Liberals down big by 9 points. Conservatives up by 9 points. 45 to 59, big lead, 15 points for the Conservatives. And, of course, we got the Boomers up by 12 points for the Liberals. But you see with young people, this is very important. Young people are starting to wake up, and we need that to happen absolutely. Now, going back to this map here, this is the wild part. You see the outskirts of Toronto, right? Mostly blue, light blue. But then you have this here. I don't know the name of this riding, but you have these 3 ridings that are cracking the red wall in Toronto. That's very, very important. And it actually looks like Carleton. Looks like Bruce Fanjoy isn't holding his support after lying throughout the whole campaign. That's gone back blue. So again, You know, you're probably not going to win any of these ridings inside Ottawa, but getting the outskirts of Ottawa is very important. Getting rural Ontario is very important, like we're seeing right here. Not very much red when you get outside of the Greater Toronto Area. Niagara, mostly blue. Windsor, blue. London, mostly blue. But you look at Southern Ontario as a whole, there's a little bit of red, but these little spots of red have a lot of ridings because it's downtown Toronto. There's a lot of people. But then you look at the outskirts, not very much red at all. Great news. Then, of course, you go west, and it's just pretty much a blue wave. So that's really great news. And it's kind of wild considering that this is not factoring in the fact that Mark Carney apologized. I believe he apologized on the 30th or the 31st? Well, the last day of polling for this was on the 29th. I believe, did it say here? Or was it on 338? But either way. Okay, so yeah, from the 27th, sorry. So this is not reflecting Mark Carney's pathetic apology. Now, one more thing I want to show you. This isn't anything to do with the polling, but this might show you why some people are starting to turn, especially young people. Change in home price to income ratio, higher equals less affordable. So in Ireland, Italy, Finland, and Spain, housing has actually got more affordable. Now, we've been told by Mark Carney and these liberal morons that this is a worldwide problem. Well, last time I checked, liberals, that Ireland, Italy, Finland, Spain, Japan are all in the world. Shocking, huh? And then even places like Belgium, Sweden. Oh, look at the United States actually getting cheaper themselves. Weird, huh? Belgium, Sweden, Australia, Norway, that's starting to get scary. Right? Pretty expensive. Switzerland, pretty expensive. And then, oh, look at this. The crown jewels of everything that sucks. Canada. 80% less affordable. Compared to, was it 62, 63, something like that here for Switzerland? 17% higher in terms of something being housing being less affordable. 17 points between first and second. That's pretty sick. So no, liberals, this is not a worldwide problem where the housing market is skyrocketing everywhere. If that were true, you'd see every other country up at 80%, like Canada. But nope, we lead the world in terms of how many idiots we have voting. I don't think Mark Carney would admit that. But you know deep down, I can't believe these idiots fell for it again. It's like they're voting for their own demise, but that's what liberals are doing. They don't realize it. Of course, they think their way is better because they're incapable of thinking. It's pretty wild. But, I mean, crime's up. Housing prices continuing to go up. Inflation up. It was supposed to be their elbows that were up, but it's everything else that sucks is going up, and their elbows are firmly down.